Hello there, this is All 24 News World News Program, and up next are the top stories. Zionist forces persist in their operations in Jenin for the sixth day, leaving 2 martyrs and several wounded in the West Bank. Meanwhile, occupation forces prevent displaced individuals in Nusayrat from returning to northern Gaza amid condemnations. U.S. President suggests deporting Palestinians from Gaza to Jordan and Egypt, but Palestinians reject the idea. Hamas vows no deportations while factions slam Trump's proposal. Also in our news, Zionist forces target displaced people returning to southern Lebanon, leaving 22 martyrs and dozens wounded. Occupation forces block residents of 66 border towns from returning and arrest several. And as fighting intensifies, 9 peacekeepers are killed in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The country cuts ties with Rwanda, while Algeria leads a UN briefing on the crisis. This and more shortly. Hello again and welcome back to the program. In recent developments in Palestine, Zionist aggression in Jenin and its refugee camp in the occupied West Bank killed 15 Palestinians, including a child, while dozens more have been injured and arrested. The attacks, now in their 6th consecutive day, have led to widespread destruction, damaging homes, property, public and private facilities, and vital infrastructure, according to the Palestinian news agency. In a related note, Zionist forces stormed several areas in the West Bank, resulting in the deaths of 2 Palestinians and injuries to others. The Palestinian Ministry of Health confirmed on Saturday evening that a young girl died from critical head wounds after being shot by the Zionist forces in the village of the Muthallat al-Shuhada in Jenin. Another young Palestinian was killed and several others were injured during raids on Balata camp east of Nablus and the city of Al-Khalil. Meanwhile, a Palestinian was killed after being shot by Zionist occupation forces near Martyr Square in central Rafah in the southern Gaza Strip. According to the Palestinian Civil Defense, the individual was targeted by the occupation snipers and was later transferred to the European hospital in Khan Yunis. With respect to the latest toll, the Palestinian Ministry of Health in Gaza has reported that 23 martyrs and 11 wounded individuals were brought to the hospitals over the past 72 hours. The toll includes 5 martyrs and 11 wounded from Zionist gunfire, as well as 14 bodies recovered from previous bombing. This raises the total number of martyrs to 47,306 and the wounded to 111,483 since October 7, 2023. Many victims remain trapped under rubble or in the streets. Shifting focus to the situation of the displaced now, Zionist occupation forces are continuing to violate the ceasefire by closing the Netzarim access and opening fire on thousands of displaced Palestinians gathered for the 2nd consecutive day on Salah ad-Din and Rashid streets, awaiting the return to northern Gaza. Zara Farjani has the full story.
Under Gaza's weary sky, time stretches endlessly for thousands who can do nothing but wait. Displaced families, gripping what little they have left, are stuck at a Rashid coast road, their journey back home blocked by a checkpoint that refuses to open. The promise of safety under a fragile ceasefire seems distant, just words against a backdrop of rubble.
I went through a lot of suffering. When I came here, I thought that the road would be open for us to go back home. But I came to find lots of people waiting. The checkpoint is still closed. Only God knows how much time it will take for the checkpoint to open. When we cross, we will still see the destruction that took place, and we will retrieve those who are buried under the rubble. My husband was martyred, and he is still under the rubble.
For some, waiting is not new. It is an old routine of uncertainty. On this road, where echoes of broken promises mingle with cries of anguish, 650,000 displaced Palestinians hope for something beyond survival. They hope to return to what's left of their homes in northern Gaza.
The situation is not just since yesterday, but the day before yesterday. People are impatiently waiting for a decision to be allowed to go back to Gaza City as part of the hostage exchange agreement between the two parties, Israel and Hamas. That's why we're telling them that we are civilians, unarmed people. You agreed to us on going back as civilians on Saturday and Sunday from a Rashid Coast road to Gaza City.
An agreement brokered by mediators guaranteed their return under the ceasefire. But today, even that agreement falters. Palestinian side calls the delay in opening the road a violation of the truce. Lives dangle in the balance of politics, while hundreds of thousands are stranded on this lifeline road.
The fate of more than 1 million people is linked to one person. See how valuable we are. We are worthless. All these people that you see here are hanging on one captive.
This road isn't just a path to Gaza City. It is a crossroad of humanity. Each family here has already endured unimaginable pain, and yet they must now fight another battle, the battle of waiting for an open road, waiting for a shred of normalcy in a life defined by loss, waiting for their humanity to be seen.
In a reaction on Sunday, Hamas strongly condemned the occupation's blocking of displaced Palestinians from returning to northern Gaza, calling it a blatant breach of the ceasefire agreement. Hamas emphasized that it's actively working with mediators to resolve the situation, accusing the occupation of using the case of the Zionist prisoner Arbel Yahoud as an excuse. This despite assurances that she is safe and guarantees for her release have been provided.
التقييم الأولي لتطبيق الاتفاق.
The preliminary evaluation of the agreement's implementation is generally positive, except for Netanyahu's attempts to maneuver, procrastinate, and buy time while appealing to the Zionist public opinion. The current ban on Gazans returning to the north, contrary to what is stated in the agreement, is a clear example of Zionist manipulation and one of Netanyahu's tactics. Most of the hostages have a limited timeline. They will only return as victors, God willing. As for some, it seems they might require more years. There are many other details I'm not fully informed about, but overall, those who have been removed will remain outside Palestine.
As things stand, U.S. President Donald Trump suggested on Sunday that Jordan and Egypt should take in more Palestinians from Gaza, citing the difficult humanitarian situation, as he put it. In a press interview, Trump proposed that the deportation of Palestinians could be either temporary or long-term, with the goal of allowing them to live in peace.
$500 million a year, and China paid $30.
I mean, you're talking about probably 1.5 million people. And we just clean out the whole thing, you know? It's over the centuries, many conflicts at that site. And I don't know, it's something has to happen, but it's literally a demolition site right now. Almost everything's demolished.
In light of this statement, Hamas reaffirmed that the people of Gaza will not leave, stressing that the Palestinian people have shed blood for their land will remain steadfast. Hamas leader Mohammed Nazzal strongly rejected U.S. President Donald Trump's suggestion that Jordan and Egypt accept Palestinians from Gaza, calling the remarks extremely strange.
In relation to the remarks made by new U.S. President Donald Trump about the displacement of Palestinians under any pretext, whether temporary or long-term, as used in the expressions attributed to him, I say that if the Palestinian people, while they are subjected to genocide, were not displaced or transferred from the Gaza Strip, and they remained steadfast and attached to their lands, what would prompt them to move or be displaced again after the war stopped and after what is supposed to be the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip again, and the flow of additional aid that has begun to flow into the Gaza Strip? In reality, these remarks are very strange. In any case, the Palestinian people who paid with their blood in exchange for their steadfastness on the land will not leave the Gaza Strip and will remain steadfast on the land, taking an example of the poet saying, "We will stay here until hope returns."
Similarly, Palestinian factions have strongly condemned U.S. President Donald Trump's remarks about displacing Gaza's residents to neighboring countries. Hamas vowed that Palestinians will resist all efforts to force them off their land. The Mujahideen and Islamic Jihad movements criticized Trump's statements, calling them an encouragement for the occupation to continue its war crimes aimed at forcing Palestinians to migrate. Meanwhile, the Palestinian resistance committees condemned the comments as fascists.
Trump's condemned and reprehensible statements align with the worst aspect of the extremist Zionist right-wing agenda. They continue the policy of denying the existence of the Palestinian people and are a part of encouraging the ongoing commission of war crimes and crimes against humanity to force our people to leave their land.
On a different front, Palestinians have rejected U.S. President Donald Trump's proposal to displace them from Gaza to Egypt and Jordan, seeing it as an attempt to strengthen settlements in the besieged Strip. Jordanian Foreign Minister Ayman Safadi also echoed his country's rejection. Yasin Arikti reports now.
U.S. President Trump's controversial plan for Gaza, suggesting the forced relocation of Palestinians from the Strip to Egypt or Jordan, have sparked widespread backlash. Palestinians view the proposal as part of a broader strategy by the U.S. and the Zionist entity to solidify illegal settlements in the region, fueling fears of further dispossession and land fragmentation.
The call of the American president is totally rejected, completely. If he thinks that he will forcibly displace the Palestinian people, it is impossible. The Palestinian people firmly believe that this land is theirs, that this soil is theirs, no matter how much Israel tries to destroy, to break and to show people that it has won. In reality, it has not won. It has destroyed everything and has proven to the world that it is an incapable state.
The Palestinian presidency condemned the proposal, calling it a clear violation of established red lines. They stressed their unshakable commitment to their land and sacred sites, warning that such a plan would echo the Nakba of 1948 and 1967.
This is not the first time that this arrogant American president has called for emptying the Gaza Strip of its population. These efforts aim to strengthen the settlements in the Gaza Strip, but all these efforts end in failure in the face of the determination of our Palestinian people and their great potential to remain on their land and hold on to it firmly. These futile attempts will not weaken the determination of the Palestinian people and will not distance us from Palestinian land.
In a joint press conference with UN Special Coordinator for Humanitarian Affairs Sigrid Kaag, Jordanian Foreign Minister Ayman Safadi reiterated his country's stance.
Our position that the two-state solution is the way to achieve peace is firm and unchangeable. Our rejection of displacement is firm and unchangeable. This is not only a firm and steadfast position that the kingdom cannot deviate from, but it is also necessary in order to achieve the security, stability and peace that we all want.
For its part, Egypt expressed its utter rejection of U.S. President Donald Trump's call to relocate the Palestinians from Gaza to Egypt. On the X platform, Egypt's embassy to the United States said Egypt cannot be part of any solution involving the transfer of Palestinians into Sinai. The U.S. plan has drawn heavy criticism, with concerned parties stressing that lasting peace can only come through the creation of a sovereign Palestinian state.
Moving on to Lebanon now, where more than 20 Lebanese were killed and dozens more injured while attempting to return to their villages in southern Lebanon on Sunday. This came after the Zionist entity refused to withdraw from the occupied southern territories despite the expiration of the 60-day deadline and the ceasefire agreement. Here's Salman Asib with more.
The journey back to their homeland is marked by bullets and shattered hopes as those returning to southern Lebanon face the ongoing aggression of the Zionist entity. Their dream of reconnecting with lost memories remains elusive as they confront both physical and psychological scars from years of exile and conflict.
We came here to return to Mays al-Jabal. We will not leave until we have entered our village. We will not allow the Israeli enemy to put us in a fait accompli. This land has been blessed by the blood of our martyrs, and we will follow their path, ready to become martyrs ourselves.
Despite the ceasefire agreement between Hezbollah and the Zionist entity, which was meant to last 60 days to compel the occupation to withdraw from the southern Lebanon, the enemy broke the pact without hesitation. During this period, many Lebanese returned to their lands, determined to reclaim what was theirs.
The enemy insists on not withdrawing from our territory. We want to show them that even if they don't withdraw, we will return. When we arrived, an Israeli drone dropped 2 bombs. We were not injured when the first one was dropped, but my friend was martyred when the second one was launched. I was blown away and my hand was broken.
As the 60-day ceasefire nears its end, UNIFIL spokesman Andrea Tinanti acknowledged the fragile situation in southern Lebanon, stressing that the region remains unstable and vulnerable to daily challenges.
So far, the Lebanese army have been able to move to several locations. We have been doing this work in coordination with them, moving into this location together with UNIFIL and then taking over all this position. That's the work of 1701 to support the Lebanese army. But so far, we are still far from full withdrawal of IDF from the south of Lebanon. Many villages and many areas are still under occupation.
Meanwhile, the Zionist occupation escalates its attacks on civilians in Lebanon, continuing its brutal campaign to obscure its failures in Gaza while attempting to force acceptance of the Palestinian resistance terms for a ceasefire.
In the latest updates from the Lebanese army, it reported on Sunday that 1 soldier was killed and another injured by gunfire from the Zionist occupation forces in southern Lebanon. The incident took place on the Marouhin Dahira Road in Tyre and in Mays al-Jabal Nabatiyah as the Zionist aggression continues in the region following the expiry of the withdrawal deadline. The attacks targeted displaced persons and military personnel along the border with the occupied Palestine. Meanwhile, Zionist occupation forces prevented residents of 66 Lebanese towns near the occupied Palestine border from returning home on Sunday, despite the expiry of the withdrawal deadline. The forces arrested several individuals and threatened to open fire on anyone approaching the barriers and checkpoints. Among those arrested were several young men from Hawla Nabatiyah who were attempting to return. For his part, Lebanese President Joseph Aoun reaffirmed that Lebanon's sovereignty and territorial integrity are non-negotiable. In a statement marking the end of the 60-day deadline for the withdrawal of the occupation forces from border villages and towns, Aoun urged the people of the south to exercise self-restraint and place their trust in the Lebanese armed forces.
To our dear people in southern Lebanon, this is a day of victory for Lebanon and all Lebanese, triumph for justice, sovereignty and national unity. As I share this great joy with you, I urge you to remain calm and trust the Lebanese armed forces, who are committed to protecting our sovereignty, security, and ensuring your safe return to your home and towns. The Lebanese army is always with you. Wherever you are, it remains dedicated to your protection and security. Together we will stay stronger, united under the banner of Lebanon.
Meanwhile, Lebanese caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati urged the countries back in the ceasefire on Sunday to step up and hold the Zionist occupation accountable, ensuring its withdrawal from Lebanon. In a statement, Mikati stressed the serious consequences of any backsliding on the ceasefire terms or failure to implement Resolution 1701. In another development on Saturday, the France Insoumise Party held a meeting with representatives of the Algerian community associations from Europe and beyond to discuss strategies to combat the targeting of Algerians and their country by certain French groups. Party representative Ercilia Soudais shared in a statement on X that the gathering was a response to the right-wing movements which she claims stir up hatred and aggression toward Algerians. She called for robust opposition to these harmful actions. On a separate note, Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune announced on Sunday that the 2005 partnership agreement with the EU needs to be revised in light of the economic changes and Algeria's push to diversify beyond hydrocarbons. In a statement, the Algerian presidency emphasized that the review aims to enhance EU-Algeria relations, focusing on mutual benefits rather than conflicts. President Tebboune also instructed the formation of a ministerial committee to propose plans for boosting university students' grants, including a full reform of university services, with a report expected at the next cabinet meeting. Furthermore, he directed the state to absorb any increases in Hajj or Islamic pilgrimage costs to keep last season's prices unchanged. Now let's move on to Algerian diplomatic relations. Algerian Minister of State for Foreign Affairs and African Affairs Ahmed Attaf met with German Deputy Foreign Minister Katja Kiel to discuss the ongoing and future partnership between Algeria and Germany. According to the Algerian Foreign Ministry, their discussions centered on strengthening economic and cultural ties, as well as an exchange of views on the challenges and issues facing the Sahel-Saharan region. Shifting focus to another topic in news now. The South African Ministry of Defense has confirmed that 9 soldiers were killed in clashes with the M23 fighters in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. The casualties included 2 soldiers from the UN peacekeeping mission and 7 from the South African Regional Bloc Force. The 2-day fighting has escalated tensions in the region, prompting the United Nations to temporarily relocate non-essential employees from Goma due to the worsening security situation. Now, in a related story, the government of the Democratic Republic of Congo has officially severed diplomatic ties with Rwanda, escalating tensions between the two countries. Congo has recalled its diplomats and given Rwanda 48 hours to cease all diplomatic and consular activities in Kinshasa. This move intensifies a long-standing dispute, with Congo accusing Rwanda of backing the M23 rebels, a claim that Rwanda has consistently denied. Shifting to a new angle, the eastern regions of the Democratic Republic of the Congo are grappling with a massive wave of displacement as fighting between the army and the M23 fighters escalates. International news outlets have reported large crowds of people fleeing on foot, making their way along dirt paths towards central and western parts of the country in search of safety.
We hear bombs from all sides of our IDP camp. That's why I decided to flee, so as not to die there. We are going to Goma, but I heard that there are bombs in Goma too, so now we don't know where to go.
If President of the DRC is no longer able to lead, he should go and make a way for those who can. We're not going to run away every day. I came here in good health, but when I crossed the road, I was trampled and disabled. We can't run away every day. He must find a solution so we can go home.
In recent developments as well, Algeria chaired the UN Security Council briefing on the escalating violence in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo. The session brought together key officials including Bintou Keïta, the UN Special Representative in the DRC, Jean-Pierre Lacroix, Under-Secretary General for Peace Operations, and Joyce Msoya, Assistant Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, to discuss the worsening situation.
We must also respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity.
In the meantime, Algeria, Somalia, Sierra Leone and Guyana called for increased support for the Luanda and Nairobi processes to tackle the escalating violence in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo. Speaking on behalf of the A3+ group during the UN Security Council briefing, Sierra Leone's permanent representative Michael Imran Kano stressed the importance of non-interference in the conflict, urging external parties to refrain from supplying weapons and equipment that could exacerbate the violence. For more other global news today, here's Sufyan Kanturi with the news in brief.
Sudan's Transitional Sovereignty Council leader Abdel Fattah al-Burhan reaffirmed on Sunday that the army will not negotiate with the Rapid Support Forces. During a visit to the army headquarters in Khartoum, recently recaptured from an RSF siege, al-Burhan stressed that all attempts at rapprochement with what he called rebels and their supporters are completely rejected. At least 27 Nigerian soldiers were killed in a suicide attack in northeastern part of the country, one of the deadliest attacks on military forces in recent years. The attack resulted in the deaths of 27 soldiers, including commander, and left several others with serious injuries. Tens of thousands gathered in Berlin for a light protest against the rise of far-right extremism in Germany and Europe. The protesters who assembled near the Brandenburg Gate held signs denouncing far-right ideologies, hate, provocation, and racism. Berlin police reported approximately 35,000 participants, while organizers claimed the turnout reached 100,000. Alexander Lukashenko was re-elected as president of Belarus on Sunday for a seventh term, securing 87.6% of the vote, according to official exit polls. Voters in Belarus cast their ballots on Sunday in a presidential election with 5 candidates, including the incumbent President Lukashenko. Over 450 observers from 49 countries monitored the election.
And that brings us to the end of our news program for tonight. See you next time.